A few years on from the release of The Batman, and all eyes are on the upcoming Penguin TV series starring Colin Farrell as the Feathered Fiend. But did you know that another spin-off series set in Arkham Asylum was also in the works and has just been cancelled-ish? Yeah, according to a report from Variety, the Arkham Asylum TV series that was in development from 2020 will not be going ahead at Max, which is obviously used to be called HBO Max, it's now just Max. Whatever, I'm Ewan, and with me today to unpack the news that is the Madhouse What Culture YouTube channel is Gareth Morgan. How are you doing, Gareth?
Very good. I want to talk all things Arkham because, yeah, you thought this place was a madhouse. We've got another madhouse we need to dive into right now. My goodness.
Like the Joker in Arkham Asylum, I set a trap, and you sprung it gloriously.
That's the way it
Actually,
is.
no, you did, because you brought the news to me this
I
morning.
did. I sprung it on you.
I'm so spectacularly late to this, Gareth, because I feel like I've arrived, like, just... There was a party going on where everyone was talking about an Arkham Asylum TV show, and I completely forgot that it was being made. So now that I've now know that it's gone, I'm like, what? Why? Who? What?
Yeah, you've had the double whammy, haven't you? You've just like, it's gone.
Yeah, the beautiful thing is here, and it's away.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as Variety have detailed in their report, they exclusively reported in October 2022 that Antonio Campos had come on board to serve as writer and showrunner of the Arkham Asylum TV series that was originally in development under a different guise in 2020, which we'll get to soon. It was originally meant to be set within the world of Matt Reeves as the Batman, but according to an individual with knowledge of the situation, Campos' version will not proceed. Quote, "It is still possible, though, that a new project set within the infamous Gotham City Asylum could be developed in the future," the individual noted. So the show was initially realized as a Gotham Police Department show, which I imagine would have taken inspiration from the brilliant Gotham Central comics, which were written by Ed Brubaker and Greg Rucka with art by Michael Lark. You should read that, Gareth.
I've added it to the pile.
It's a beauty. I've got a big old omnibus. I got signed by Greg Rucka a few years back, and it's just the biggest tome. So if you can get it in non-omnibus format and the pages won't stress, I'd recommend doing that instead. But yeah, creatives like Terrence Winter and Joe Barton departed the project over dreaded creative differences with Warner Brothers over the past few years. And yeah, it got even weirder last year because while this project was initially conceived as taking place within the world of the Batman, which obviously Matt Reeves brought to the big screen in 2022, we've got the Penguin series coming out in August as well. After Reeves came out and said that it was going to have like a really cool kind of horror-y focus, which we definitely got the vibes from in the Batman movie when we had that meeting with both the Riddler and Joker in the asylum. James Gunn then came on board to say that it would not be set in the world of the Batman and would instead take place in the DCU movie-verse that he is concocting along with Peter Safran. So, Gareth, there's a lot of crossed wires here, a lot of confusion, and at the end of it all, I'm kind of asking, what was even the point?
Yeah, I'm so muddled and confused because the idea that the original GPD set series in itself sounded really riveting to me. I was very much glued into that. But then when they did just pivot, and I think it was like as they were developing that series, they were spending time in Arkham and going, oh, well, there's so much we could just dive into in Arkham. Let's just do the Arkham series. And that within that Matt Reeves world, like you said, with all the Riddler Joker exchange, all that stuff, it just seemed like a kind of world that had so much to offer, and like the horror tone, the horror style felt a bit fresh as well, and it just suited what he'd done in that Batman movie, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I thoroughly enjoyed the second time. The first time I had a bit of a headache, and it was a very overwhelming film to watch in the cinema side. That was a lot. My brain melted. But the second time, loved it. Absolutely adored it. So for me, I was like, yeah, I'm so game for this. But now with that, then the additional thing of like changing it up into the DCU. I mean, James Gunn has shown in the past that he does have an ability to really produce some quite horrific moments in his films. Like he doesn't shy away from that. And obviously, we don't know how much, I don't know, creative input he'd have into that Arkham series, like folding it into it and all the rest of it. But it just didn't make sense. Like you had the potential there with the Batman movie in that world just to do something quite gritty and edgy, and now just bringing it into the DCU, it's like they've just literally gone, oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, we'll have that. And it's like, wait, what?
It's really weird to me, and it's kind of an example of where we've had the crossed wires that have come from the changing of the guard at Warner Brothers over the last 5 or so years. Obviously, Reeves came aboard on to do the Batman years before James Gunn and Peter Safran were given the kind of the carte blanche to do whatever they wanted with the DC mythos on screen. We know that Reeves' vision is going to coexist alongside the DCU, which is going to have its own Batman as well. The main feeling that I've gotten from this, and it's how, I'm looking forward to the Penguin TV show, but in my head, I feel like they completely overcommitted to the idea of franchising the Batman when it could work perfectly fine as, singular great movies with really cool authorial intent behind it that Reeves has brought to the table. Make that really cool trilogy the same way that, Tim Burton had 2 really cool Batman movies in 1989 and 1991? 92? Can't remember. And then obviously, Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. Whereas it kind of feels like they got halfway house between, okay, we've got this really cool The Batman series, we're going to avoid doing this MCU kind of inspired franchising thing, but we're going to have our cake and eat it too, and bring it to our streaming service and HBO Max, or Max now. It just feels very, very weird. And then to throw in the DCU change into it alongside that, like, we don't even know who's going to be the Batman in that James Gunn universe. We know that Andy Muschietti, who directed the Flash, is going to be helming it, so... Yeah, I don't know. This all of this just feels really silly to me. It feels like the Warner Brothers have wasted the time of Reeves and obviously the other creatives that have been involved in here. It's totally bizarre to me that you would even contemplate doing an Arkham Asylum TV show set in this mythos, which we still don't have a really good understanding of. And rather than coming to the bit and just keeping it with the Batman, but did the Batman need all this side nonsense anyway?
Yeah, I mean, I quite enjoyed the idea of the Penguin being explored purely because when we actually watched the film itself, he was the main character that I sat there.
What are you showing me?
Yeah, it was a character I came out of it and went, I need to see a bit more of him. I'm very much engaged with this character. Like Colin Farrell's doing some incredible stuff. Yeah, I'll sit down and have 7 hours of that. Thank you very much. But in terms of really fleshing out and just doing numerous series, it's it's the diminishing returns thing. By the time we do get to Batman Part 2, Batman 2, whatever it is, it's going to be that thing of, I've had a lot of Batman now, I need a bit of a break from it. Whereas if you did just stay, and I'm kind of contradicting myself a little bit, but if you did just stay within the movie sphere with that, and you just had the Batman, and then 4 years later, another Batman, the anticipation for it, because it did really well. There was a lot of I don't know, excitement around it when it dropped, but then with that obviously comes a studio going, yeah, so much excitement, so what we're going to do, we're just going to expand, yeah, but that's not always the answer. Sometimes just keeping people hooked and keeping the director as well, as incredible as Matt Reeves, just keeping him solely focused on one thing, just doing this sequel instead of just trying to get multiple TV shows off the ground, because it's gonna divide your focus. You're not gonna be able to put your heart and soul into a movie like he did with that first Batman, so you're probably not gonna get, I'm saying this, I'm assuming they might just absolutely pull off a blinder and every single one of the projects is incredible, but it'd be really difficult to produce high quality, the same level of high quality work if your focus is that split all over the place. It's just human nature.
Yeah, I mean, I have no doubts that the sequel is going to be interesting and fun. I really am looking forward to seeing where they go with the character. I think, obviously the first one works as a really cool kind of Batman year 2, early in his career story. I'm curious to see how Reeves tackles the evolution of the character going forward. But you're totally right. He's been pulled in very different directions. When he came on board to do the Batman, it seems as though that remit then got expanded to be, I'm going to be Warner Brothers Batman guy. I'm going to give you multiple TV shows based on the character. Obviously, he's a producer on the Cape Crusader animated series, alongside J.J. Abrams, which is being headed up by Bruce Timm of Batman animated series fame, which I'm really looking forward to. But it just kind of feels like one of those classic, what has become classic behavior for Warner Brothers over the last 5-ish years of, really nebulous strategy. We're just going to let you do a bunch of Batman things, then go from there. When really, I think what we just needed here was let Matt Reeves make his Batman movies. And the Arkham Asylum show, for me, I'm just burnt out on superhero TV. I think, post the streaming rush that we had with the pandemic and everything, this feels like a hangover from all of that, with the rush to get stuff on streaming services, which kind of backfired for Warner Brothers in the end in terms of diminishing box office receipts of movies that released on streaming. So for me, it's frustrating that they couldn't get the Arkham Asylum show to work, But I would hope that Reeves will be exploring these kind of horror movie themes in the future sequels that he's got. You know, there's such a rich setting that they introduced in the previous Batman film. Obviously, we know that the Joker's there. We got the Riddler there. I'm curious to see what a Matt Reeves Scarecrow would look like. You know, Dr. Jonathan Crane used to work at Arkham Asylum. So, you know, I feel like there's plenty that you could do with that. And yeah, like what are you most hoping for with a Reeves inspired Arkham?
I think that's it. I don't think you can fully give up hope on like Arkham being realized in this universe. I think that there's every chance, like you're saying, of Reeves just spending a lot of time there in the sequel, which I think a lot of people will be very much into. We just had a few more interviews, the Batman going in, interrogating people in Arkham. I'd be up for 2 hours of that, not gonna lie. Just line him up, all of his like rogues gallery, and he'll just have like intense interviews with all of them. I'd be well up for that. So I'd like to see that. I mean, the Barry Keoghan Joker thing is like the big lingering thing at the end of that first Batman. So I think a lot of people are just curious to see what the picture's going to be like. We did get that extended, deleted scene thing, didn't we, eventually? And I wasn't the biggest fan, not going to lie. The look itself was a little bit different, but it's a
bit Ledger derivative.
Yeah.
I think we really want to have that theatrical Joker on top of the parade, chucking his money everywhere and shooting Bob. You know, I want that theatricality back.
I want Mark Hamill. I want that level of just nuts.
You know, it's still early days.
Yeah.
There's still plenty of time for Keoghan to really, define and put his own stamp on the Joker. But I think it would be really cool. I enjoyed the Silence of the Lambsy kind of dynamic we had there with Batman going to meet with an old adversary to try and gain insight into the Riddler. I thought that was a very clever way of looking at different movies to try and get a new spin on the Batman Joker dynamic. I'd be curious if maybe we could get kind of like an Arkham Asylum style story where maybe Batman gets locked inside the asylum and he's gonna fight his way out. We already have that represented in different avenues. We've got the Grant Morrison, Dave McKean comic, which is just the most ridiculous, cool thing ever, and really disturbing. And obviously you got the Rocksteady game as well, so maybe we don't need to do that, but maybe it would be cool to see, a version of Batman on the big screen, where he's gonna go up against multiple villains, and he's gonna die hard his way out of there.
Yeah, I mean, like, even if it's just an act of the film, do you know what I mean? Like, just at one point in the movie, that's something he has to do. I think there would be an audience for it, because it's, like, I think those games, and obviously those comics and the rest of it, like, people have connected with those over the years, so just seeing that and seeing a different take on it in this more, I don't know, this quite noir setting. And I like the idea as well of, like you said, we talked about like Silence of the Lambs, like it was very Zodiac inspired as well, that first movie, The Zodiac Killer. I like the idea of that, like every single villain that he introduces in this world, like it's somewhat linked and inspired by like a real world serial killer to a certain degree. So like if you could find another way to link, off the top of my head, I can't think of what villains could, do you know what I mean, like cross over with that. Like I don't know how you could work the Iceman into like a real villain, like in that kind of that real world kind of villain.
The Iceman,
Mr. Freeze, the Iceman. My head. I've gone. My X-Men wires got crossed over there for a second. Everyone's frosty. All right, I'm feeling frosty in my brain. That's where I'm at.
Famed Batman villain, Jack Frost, starring Michael Keaton.
Mr. Freeze, Mr. Slushy himself. But you know what I mean? I can't think of what ones they could do next, but I like that kind of flavor.
I would very much hope if they're going to do that, I want to see different genre takes move forward. If we're looking at Zodiac and real history for the Riddler, for the sequel, if we're looking at a different era of Batman's kind of evolution, because obviously it starts off with him going up against gangsters, and then the early supervillains aren't that outrageous. I would love to see if we're in the next stage of Batman's career, we get someone who's a little bit more pulpy sci-fi, like Mr. Freeze or Clayface. Let's lean into the body horror aspect. Let's really kind of, push the boat out a little bit.
Bane, bring Bane back. Full Ben and Bane, that's what I want. Yeah.
Let us all know down in the comments below what you think about the Arkham Asylum snafu. Are you frustrated with how this thing is kind of spun out? Do you think that Warner Brothers overcommitted with the Batman as a franchise when they should have just focused on the movies? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this, so please do post them down there and drop the video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to What Culture for more hot, fresh, baked content to your inbox every single day. I promise that unlike the Joker, the pastries will not be filled with high explosives. Either way, thank you all for watching. I've been Ewan, this has been Gareth, and we will catch you next time, Batman!
Stay frosty.